Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. So the verdict is in the case against Richard Allen, and I'm going to play the news clip and going to tell you guys my thoughts, and I'm actually interested in your thoughts as always in the comments.
And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Scott Swan in the Channel 13 studios. We've got breaking news coming out of Carroll County this afternoon. We have learned there is a verdict in the Delphi murders case, and we've got a crew on the scene just outside the Delphi courthouse. Anne Marie Tiernan joins me live to tell us what you know at this hour. Anne?
Stepped outside of the court. Verdict was read. We're told it took less than 2 minutes. Bob, explain the scene, everything you've learned.
So, and it was, 2 minutes. Guilty, 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 and guilty. All 4 counts against Richard Allen. Jurors came back. Obviously, it must be unanimous. The judge asked the defense team if they wanted to pull the jurors. The defense team did, so we got to hear every one of the jurors say that indeed was their verdict. Again, guilty on felony murder of Abby Williams, guilty felony murder of Libby German, guilty murder of knowingly or intentionally killing Abby, and guilty murder knowingly or intentionally killing Libby. Richard Allen sat emotionless. He did not show any emotion during the verdict as it was read. The defense counsel, specifically Andrew Baldwin, was sitting right next to him. He had his arm around Richard Allen at that time. He was rubbing the back of his head. The judge made it very clear that she wanted everyone to remain respectful, no outbursts in the courtroom, and there were not. But the families of Abby and Libby certainly were overcome with emotion. Becky Patty, that's Libby's grandmother, she was clutching her husband Mike's arm. And when the verdict came in, right in the front row, Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter, he put his hands, he put his head down into his hands. He began crying. Again, it took less than 2 minutes for the main part of all of this to play out. And at the end of it, the judge thanked the jurors for their service. She thanked the attorneys for what she said was a well-argued case on both sides. Richard Allen was led away in handcuffs. And at that point, after he left the room, after the judge left the room, after the jurors left the room, that's when we really saw the emotion. That's when we saw, again, Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter. He reached back and he held on tightly to Libby's grandmother's hand.
I know it's tough. You've been watching these families. It's emotional for everybody involved. The families sharing to you that when they saw some of the testimony and some of the evidence in the case and hearing the voice of a loved one that they haven't heard for 7.5 years. I mean, this has been very, very difficult. We did see outside when the news broke, Emily, quite an outburst here along the streets.
Yeah, there was a lot of cheering, guilty, guilty. You saw some people crying and rushing away. Saw a gentleman that I've seen sitting with the Allen family throughout the trial. He walked out very swiftly and very quietly, and I kind of perked up to see him, and I thought, what's that about? And then the next thing you know, here was the pool reporter coming out with all of the charges. But yeah, loud out here, people cheering.
There was a lot for this jury to consider, Bob. We were adding it up. We kind of got 19 or 20 hours of deliberations is what we think is probably a pretty close estimate to going through all that evidence, all the witness testimony, which frankly was very contradictory. And they were able to sort through that. But this resounding, we had talked about the possibility perhaps of there being a split in this verdict. Maybe the knowing and intentional would maybe not be something given the evidence that the jury thought that they would be able to say beyond a reasonable doubt, but that all proved not to be the case.
Not the case. And the jury did, I believe that obviously the confessions moved the jury. That was the most powerful evidence we saw, I think, throughout this entire verdict, and I think that was something that moved jurors in this situation, and it appears that they also believed the physical evidence that the state presented tying Richard Allen to the scene.
All right, I'm going to have to do a much more organized video in the coming days, but my initial reaction is, while I believe Richard Allen is involved in the murders of Abby and Libby, I do not believe he is alone in that. There was no DNA from Richard Allen on the scene, no digital evidence. Some witnesses stated that Richard was not stable mentally when he made those confessions, and I think being in solitary confinement can drive someone insane. So those, to me, I have questions. If this was such a, I don't want to get graphic, but if this was such a bloody and horrific crime as law enforcement states it was, there should have been some sort of DNA left behind by Richard Allen. I believe that the crime happened in one location and the girls were moved to where they were eventually discovered the next day. So they didn't find any blood from the girls on him, mud, nothing. Witnesses are inconsistent as far as the unspent round at the scene. Well, I hate to say it, but could that have been planted? Or let's think about it. Could it have been from any gun of that type? And I don't believe that Richard Allen is Bridge Guy. I believe that this all started, or at least the girls were brought to the Monon High Bridge that day because of Kagan Klein. And I still believe that Ron Logan may have been potentially involved. And then there's others. What about Brad Holder? To me, Richard Allen does not resemble Bridge Guy. Don't get me wrong, I do not believe he's innocent at all. I believe he was there. I believe this was a crime by a group of individuals. And I believe that Judge Gull, I don't think she should have been presiding over this case. I believe that she should have removed herself and a new judge should have come in. And there's so much more. There is so much more. And I just don't believe that this is the complete justice for the girls. I mean, when Richard was arrested, I completely believed he was the one. But as the trial went on, and what I was hearing, I have too many questions. There's too many holes for me. And I guess he's going to be sentenced on December 20th, not long before Christmas. I'm sure that he's going to appeal. Not sure that's going to do much good for him. I hate to say it, but I don't believe he's probably going to be surviving very long in prison. It would be great if he were to get it all out. Tell us who else is involved. Because there's no way that this one man, that Richard Allen did this all alone. I just don't buy it, guys. I just don't buy it. So I will do another video once I can get a chance to kind of go through everything. And I really wish the fact that this was not televised, at least a day late, like there wasn't cameras in the courtroom, it really bothers me because I feel there's not a lot of transparency. And, you know, in the justice system, it needs to be transparent. We need to believe that justice is being rightly served, not only for the victims and their families, but the accused also deserve to get a fair trial. And I'm not so sure that that happened for Richard Allen. Again, I don't believe he's not involved. I don't believe he's innocent, but there's more. There's much more to this. And remember, Doug Carter mentioned there was more tentacles to this. There was more involved. Again, it's just, to me, this is not a complete closure. And I'm going to see what, I would like to see what the victims' families have to say. I'll look forward to seeing what the Pattys say, what Abby's family states. And I also want to hear what Kathy Allen says and his family. There's a lot of questions that they're just up in the air for me. But let me know what you guys think of all this. Do you think that Richard Allen should have been found guilty? And do you think that he did this all by himself? Do you believe Richard Allen is Bridge Guy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And with that said, I hope you have a great rest of the day. And most of all, stay safe.